are back with game two after incredibly long roster swapping. Now joining me is going to be Vapor Bach Bunny. Hey Vapor, hey Bach Bunny, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Generic.
I am absolutely fantastic. All right, so we see first band coming in already. It is going to be Twisted Fate. That's an interesting band. I don't know
Yeah,
if
this is
that's
a really weird band just
targeted or
because
what.
I don't think any of them play it. I haven't seen any of them play it, and it has a lot of counters at the moment, especially with the Lich Bane nerf.
Yeah, and we do see a LeBlanc ban as well. That's something that we did see banned by Versace in the last game, in addition to this game, apparently.
Yeah, I honestly think that LeBlanc's kind of like in a really strong spot at the moment. She brings so much to the team, and she's really safe. Like you can't really get ganked as LeBlanc, so.
Once again, seeing a vibe band. These are very similar bands to the band to what we saw last game, excepting the Twisted Fate, um, which I think may have actually been a mistake. So I think we're gonna see maybe slow, thought out bands, but fast and furious picks from Versace, just like we saw last game. Kazakh's band again, not a surprise at all.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like maybe a Pantheon ban or even like a Lee Sin ban after that game. Like I know Friendless Fiend's one of his favorite champs since Lee Sin, and Lee Sin's very strong right now. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and that Lee Sin ban is absolutely not even remotely a surprise, based on how strong Friendless Fiend was with it last game. Yeah, made a lot of plays that made a lot of difference. Now it's time for Versace's last ban, Ari. That Ari ban obviously being targeted at, I do believe Blues Clueless was in the mid last game.
Yeah, that was just like amazing charms that game. There was so many that were like on point and just showing the terror on Ari that you can be. Even though their team was behind, he still did a lot of work.
He absolutely did. He was a force to be reckoned with, and if his team hadn't been quite as behind, if they had only been slightly behind, I honestly think that he could have put them on his back and carried them as Ari. But we do see Thresh being hovered over here by Blues Clueless.
Okay,
Obvious,
Thresh is just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously a pick for his own team, but also, kind of that fourth band to keep Xandris off of it.
Yeah, and it's just like it's a really safe pick because he's pretty much good in every matchup. I mean, you don't really lose any lanes hard as Thresh, and you also don't really reveal what you're going because you can really run that guy in pretty much every comp.
It's true. He runs effectively in almost everything. And even though he doesn't really have a whole lot of poke, he still runs effectively in a poke comp because he can be used to be the one that brings their low people to you once they're poked down.
And he also provides a lot of disengage, especially when you're poking in lane, because the box takes up a good portion of the lane, which means it lets your team really get out of there if you need to. Which is what a poke comp's about, right? You just poke them down. If they try to engage, you just run away.
Yep. All right, so we
Morgana's
do
just like
see
a
a
popular pick now.
Renekton and a Morgana picked up.
Like Renekton's arguably the strongest top laner right now. He just doesn't really have any like hard counters other than like maybe Rumble if you don't really know what you're doing. He's just like a really safe pick. Doesn't really reveal your comp. Just like a strong lane bully. Definitely getting you through the early game.
Now, I'm actually surprised we didn't see Who Matt Jones pick up Shyvana again, being that he did play a pretty effective Shyvana last game. And even if that did leave Renekton open, that didn't seem to be a particularly huge issue last game.
I think what they're going for here is that if you pick Shyvana and the enemy picks either a Trundle or a Rise, you're really gonna have a really tough lane. You're gonna get so far behind. Whereas Renekton, if they pick Rise, you can still do okay if you like get some jungler help. With Shyvana, you have no CC, you can't really get on top of him. He just kind of crushes you in lane.
That's true. I don't think I don't expect to see a rise here, though.
Now other teams are already really squishy. Kind of need to get more of a front line at this point.
And we do see a Jinx picked up. Now that's interesting to me with 3 picks still open left on Versace. I wouldn't exactly expect to see a Jinx this early because that's an almost open field. And picking Jinx into a field that you don't know what their catch potential is.
Yeah, I mean they do have a Morgana, which is pretty scary against the Jinx, but you could kind of tell they had a plan of going Jinx in this game with the Vi ban. You don't really need to ban Vi if you're going like an Ezreal or something like that, because you can really escape from after the ultimate. But as Jinx, once Vi gets on top of you, you're pretty much gonna have to kill her.
As Jinx, once anyone gets on top of you, there's really not a whole hell of a lot you can do about anything from there on out. It's kind of an unfortunate situation for her, but she makes up for it by having just incredibly ridiculous damages. So we
Okay,
do
I think
see
one of these is a troll pick because I'm not quite sure this is what they want to run. Yeah.
Clairvoyance teleport almost all the way around on the team, except for the clarity on Poppy. Um, there is a substantial amount of trolling going on in this pick phase. So I am interested to see how these lanes are actually going to play out. So it looks like we're going to see a Kale going in the mid lane. And that may be an Aatrox locked in. Aatrox is locked in. Now, Aatrox is an interesting pick against Renekton because he doesn't have a shabby early game by any means. Like, it's definitely nothing to snub your nose at. And his late game, if he's played correctly, can actually be pretty scary.
The one thing I'm worried about with blue team's comp right now is they're running into a lot of AoE between like Dominus, Morgana ulti, even Wukong and the laser from Vel'Koz. They don't even have that good of pick potential. I mean they have the hook, but it's still pretty scary for them to run a team fight.
It is absolutely terrifying for them to try and team fight. It looks like what they may be playing a comp where they're intending to dive the Lucian with the Pantheon Aatrox and using Kale's ult to keep one of them up is kind of what I expect to see here. That actually seems pretty legitimate to me. Like that seems like a reasonable assumption of what they're going to do. Now, Versace, on the other hand, wants to team fight. They actually want to team fight forever without stopping, I think.
Yeah, I think this is where Aatrox is really strong. It's just because Aatrox late game can just split push for pretty much everybody, maybe except for like Jax. Like late gamer Renekton is not going to be able to deal with Aatrox's sustain and like damage.
Yeah, but I don't know that you really want to try and split push against this team because if you do, they're just going to engage on you 4v5. Because they're going to have the Dominus, they're going to have the Morgana ultimate. I can never remember the name of it. They're going to have the Wukong Cyclone, and all the while, Vel'Koz is going to be shooting laser beams over top of the whole stupid thing, just doing, honestly, what is a ridiculous amount of damage if you look at all of his ratios and everything. He's actually got a completely huge amount of damage.
I think what blue team can try to do this game is try to catch them in rotation because you have a Pantheon ult for initiate, and with Haley ultimate, you can really like keep him alive to like kill the backline. So you want to like split push with Aatrox, then try to catch blue team in rotation and just delete someone. Especially if once you can get their team on the run, Jinx is really good at cleanup, and honestly, purple team has really no way to get out. They're all about the hard engage and then winning the fight.
Yeah, it's true. Their disengage is less than zero. Like, well, not less than zero, I guess. a good dark binding can just do a decent job of disengaging for you, but it's only going to hit one person.
But you could definitely see the Morgana counter pick coming into play because Morgana kind of is definitely a counter to Thresh in that you can just basically his hook has such a wind up time that you can definitely like dark shield that pretty much every time, or black shield rather.
It's not entirely dissimilar from picking Morgana as a counter pick to Leona.
Yeah. There's a little bit more counterplay as Leona just because you go in on one of the targets and then you immediately switch and you can stun the other target. Because a
Yep.
lot of the time as Morgana you stay near your carry. You go in on Morgana and then you switch to your carry or like their carry.
Yeah, and Morgana's actually some champion I'm starting to see a lot more of. Just because her de-aggro potential is incredible. I would say her de-aggro potential is, at least during the laning phase, is something on par with Jaina's, and she's just got a stronger all-around full game than Jaina does right now.
So basically what's going to happen, I think what's going to happen in most of these fights is purple team's going to initiate and with Aatrox and Thresh and a Kaylee ultimate, you're going to try to basically Thresh is going to die pretty much every one of these fights and Aatrox's passive is going to go down. And then afterward, all their ultimates are going to be down on purple team. And then using Jinx and Aatrox are going to try to clean up the fight and then win it from there.
So
You're
do
gonna
you
peel back with like Kaylee ultimate and just see if you can outlast all the ultimates, and then you try to turn the fight around from there.
do you think Nightmare would be able to fight without the Aatrox passive up?
Unless he has GA, that is very risky because if Aatrox is honestly, you're really good at the end of fights because you kind of die really quickly, just because you're not. If you build tanky, you're not that tanky. You're like relatively tanky, but you're definitely not like a Mundo or something else. But you're really good because you come back. You have a second life, and you come back when most of their burst damage is down, and that's where you excel. You have so much like healing potential and sustain that you can just like clean up the fight afterward. There's just like if you 1v1 their AD carry, you're probably just gonna kill them. Like, you know what I mean?
All right, well, I guess we'll see how Nightmare does plan to implement this team once we get back onto the Rift. Back in just a couple minutes. Wow, and that was a quick load in. There we go, guys. So we are ready to go with game number 2. And this is, again, for the first place in the A bracket of our Spring League second split.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Seeing a lot of pings coming down from Nightmare as they do plan to invade into Versace's red. Versace looks like they might be planning to invade into blue.
All right. Come back when you've collected all the bits.
You there with me, buddy?
yourself.
Yeah, I actually
Excellent.
really like this pickup from Kaylee. Is that she's going for boots first, which is actually very good versus Vel'Koz because the counterplay to
30
Vel'Koz is
seconds
just be
until
really
minions
fast.
spawn.
You can avoid most of his spells. So that's a really pretty good counter pickup from for starting items as Kaylee. She's gonna have to be careful with mana issues though, which means she wants more of a passive farm lane.
And we do see, once again, Versace rotating through the enemy jungle, just like they did last time. Setting up for a very deep invade, seeing if they can catch anybody out, but nobody there.
Minions have spawned.
Yeah, both jungles they're probably just going to trade buffs, which is, I'd say, almost better for Wukong, because Wukong has kind of weaker early levels compared to Pantheon. Level
This is
6,
my happy face.
Pantheon has like the utility of his ultimate, but Wukong really brings the damage at that point.
And we do see Thresh is actually just a bush away from 3 members of Versace. Do not know if he saw that Wukong go in, but may be seen it done. No, he does drop the ward. He did not actually see it, and he is going to start arresting Wukong. Wukong does get flayed back, manages to pick up the red buff, and now he is going to go ahead and turn his attention onto Thresh. A lot of damage going down that red buff, doing a lot of work to keep him in place, and play again. Flash, and the flash not necessary as the Morgana Dark Binding was cast at just the right angle to pick that up. Wukong going to pick up the Wraiths off the back of that.
One thing to note though is Jinx is up for pretty much a full creep wave now, as she had the wave to herself.
We did actually see a gank in mid lane taking down Vel'Koz, who has very little mobility. But we see another gank from both Lucian and Wukong in the mid lane to pick up the Pantheon kill in return. And Lucian has decided he's just going to farm in the mid lane until Vel'Koz gets back.
If this match is anything like last game, this is going to be a bloody matchup, and it's pretty much starting that way, with 3 kills already going down by 3-minute mark.
Yeah, it is definitely looking like it's shaping up to be a bloody matchup. The first blood, of course, was picked up by Morgana very early on, not worth the full 400 gold. I do believe it was late enough to be worth 300, though. But, and now it looks like there's a fight going on in the topside river. Wukong gets caught, is getting set upon by Pantheon and Kale, and they have decided that they're going to turn this into a gank against the alligator. He does flash out, and Ignite burning down on him. Lucian
This is
finally returning to his lane.
Last game. Yeah, Lucian's already down 16 CS, which, I mean, it's smart that he grabbed another Doran's Blade, because this is going to be a tough lane right off the bat, just because Jinx is so far ahead in farm already.
Now, she is far ahead in farm, but he also did manage to get 2 assists out of that. There's that huge damage potential that we saw going down from Vel'Koz onto Kale, and that's exactly what we were talking about having happen.
Pantheon's had a rough start this game, as he's pretty much been denied both. He got red buff, the enemy's red buff, but he died with it, so he basically has no buffs now, as blue is stolen away from him, which is going to make it even like a rough start.
Looks like there's an extended trade going down on the bot lane. A Black Shield was put on Lucian, but that unfortunately does not prevent Jinx's damage. And now we do see Aatrox is incredibly low. He has a full blood well, though. But, oh, and it looks like Lucian has a lot of damage being put onto him. Does pop the barrier, and the flash goes down to Jinx anyways. And now it looks like top lane we are going to see Ignite going down onto Aatrox. That is going to plop his blood pool passive. Here comes Wukong down into the bot lane. Does put a little bit of damage down onto Jinx. Jinx has no mana, and Wukong is still forced to back off, taking a lot of damage from Jinx as all he can really do is walk at her.
That bot lane fight was...
Oh, and now we see Reddington trying to slice and dice his way out, and does actually get picked up at a max range auto attack from Aatrox there.
Yeah, that's just one thing you gotta be careful about Aatrox. He's really strong early levels just because of the second life. And Renekton was low with low Fury, which means Shaka can just really turn that fight around. Aatrox has some pretty insane burst damage early levels.
He really does, and that's something that people don't always remember because he's not someone you play against a whole lot anymore. See Jinx taking the Thresh Express, going back to base. Going to capitalize on that that 20 CS farm lead she has, and maybe pick that kill that she has as well. Oh no, she did. She apparently canceled her B. Huh.
Yeah, apparently decided to stay in this lane, which is almost getting risky at this point, as she really has a lot of gold. She has 2k already, which is pretty scary to be sitting on.
Oh, and we do see another hard engage onto Vel'Koz, and a death sentence does land onto Morgana. Vel'Koz does make it out below 50 health. So, you know what we haven't seen, other than the early gank that cost him his red buff, is we actually haven't seen Pantheon gank another lane yet.
No, it's mostly because of the he's really far behind, and if he runs into Wukong, he's not going to be able to win that fight, which is really scary. And you don't want to force a fight which you get counter ganked and even get farther behind. But I think he's just going to farm up until he gets 6, and then try to make a play with his ultimate.
One of Pantheon's biggest strengths, though, is the fact that his early ganks are strong. Like, even his pre-6 ganks are strong. So, not being able to utilize that is going to, I think, really hurt his team overall. Although, it looks like Jinx is going to try and put this on her back. Getting a lot of farm, early lead in the bot lane. We do see Vel'Koz managing to land a full combo onto Kayle. Kayle brought down to half health. That true damage doing a lot of work. But she did manage to land 3 spells in a row. Extended trade coming into the top lane, and it does look like Dominus is going to be popped, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get away, as Aatrox also pops his ultimate and takes down Frankton without really a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, this just really comes down to Aatrox is ahead because of the first kill. And Aatrox is just a really strong champion when he gets a lead.
Yeah, Aatrox is one of those champions that can take a lead and run with it really, really far. I've seen Aatrox frequently, when played well, just take a 1 or 2 kill lead and just run it into a game victory.
I know Renekton's like to start Doran's Blade, and then, you know, because he's really strong early levels, and the sustain from Doran's Blade is really nice. He may want to consider picking up, instead of that Ruby Crystal that's not going to do much for quite a while, is grab a Doran Shield, because Aatrox is mostly attack speed champion, which would help a lot in these early fights.
It absolutely would. Or maybe even begin work on an early Rando with Zoman.
Forward.
You know, a good, oh, and we see a engage under the tower going in bot lane. Culling is used to clear out the minion waves. Pretty much all is good for at low levels.
See, what purple team's trying to do right now is they're just forcing the tower, because they know blue team has a lot of money.
And we do see a gank coming into bot lane, and it looks like Pantheon's going to jump onto Morgana, and she's going to get killed by the Super Mega Death Rocket. And looks like Lucian's going to try and make it out, does use the flash, brings Pantheon in under the tower with himself, and actually able to make it out of that. Like, they were not entirely committed to that tower dive.
Generic, watch out mid.
Yep, and looks like Kayle is going to have her ultimate pop. That does prevent the damage, but it does not prevent the stun. Does have the ignite ticking on her, and there's going to be a large chase coming in. I think a flash blown by both Wukong and Renekton in order to... No, not by Renekton. In order to maintain that chase, though. Image Strike being used as the finishing blow.
So this was a good roam by them, as they know that the top lane is pretty much a loss at this point. Renekton is not going to be able to deal with this Aatrox, so he's to try to help his team out by forcing things like that.
And it looks like they're going to try and take this and turn it into a dragon. That sentence does land onto Wukong's clone, not who you want to hit with that. Vel'Koz trying to use geometry to zone out the Pantheon.
Red team has
Once again, another
slain the
death sentence
dragon.
does land, not onto a primary target, and the red team is going to go to Versace. And we saw Versace last game maintain total dragon control.
Red team's turret has
They're
been
just
destroyed.
the gold is even again. They're just trading top turret for dragon, basically.
Absolutely, and that's you know, it unfortunately does give up the map pressure, but I think Renekton's okay with that, as he's going to let the lane push in now so that he can try and catch up and farm. That was a decision that was made. It was this. That wasn't by coincidence. They just decided that, you know what, we're going to let that go so that Renekton
This
can
is
start
very
farming.
dangerous bot lane right now. Like, very dangerous. I don't think Superboy knows that
Killing
Wukong is there. They don't have the bush warded.
Oh, Aatrox does come in and take a kill down onto onto Vel'Koz there in the mid. And no, it does appear that Jinx had absolutely no clue that Wukong was there. Cyclone comes in, immediately followed off by a crushing blow. And now they are going to push this tower.
This has actually been very good by both teams. They've really countered what each other have done. Not really letting anyone get away with getting things for free.
Pantheon does come in, immediately eats a dark binding and the Morgana ultimate as Lucian is able to pick up a kill. Now he's going to turn his attention onto Thresh, who is very low. That is a double kill for Lucian. Very nice Super Mega Death Rocket streaks by and picks up nothing.
Purple team really needs to run here.
They absolutely do, and the Dark Binding landing onto Aatrox. And it looks like Wukong is not going to be so fortunate as to get out. Comes back in, uses Spike to pick up a little bit of farm. Uses the decoy and actually manages to juke the Aatrox W. Uses the Nimbus Strike to make his way out, and the Dark Binding lands onto Kayle. Aatrox, though, is still there to intercept this Wukong as he does come in. Does use the Nimbus Strike to come out of the bush a little earlier than what Aatrox expected. Aatrox brought very low, but he does still have the blood well up.
And here's Purple Team answering with a mid turret. Like I said, both of these teams are playing pretty well this game and not letting anyone get away with it for free.
And Vel'Koz is up just a little bit too far, but here comes Renekton with the dominance. Does manage to get the stun down on Kayle. Kayle is forced to pop her invulnerability. Vel'Koz now comes back, puts the life form disintegration ray over top of two members, but the spear being just a little bit too much and does take down Vel'Koz. Renekton forced to back out from a 3v1.
I think that came to Vel'Koz overestimating how much damage he did. I think he thought he could burst down Kayle, when really he just didn't do as much damage as they thought he was going to do, and just sat there and just died.
Yeah, that was a situation of, oh, well, I'm going to use my ultimate so that I can get, 5 stacks of my passive up, and that'll proc true damage at least once, and maybe I can land another spell, and that'll do pretty good damage, but it just wasn't able to keep her in the beam long enough. And it has a very, very, very slow turning speed, unfortunately.
One thing to note about this game is that even though blue team's ahead in kills, they're still behind in gold by almost 1,000, which is very little, but it's still something to note.
It is pretty little at this point. It's only about 5%. 5% advantage isn't all that great. But let's see where that gold is. It looks like, despite being behind in gold, Aatrox is up by 1,300? Yeah, 1,300 on Renekton. And Wukong, but Wukong balances that out by being up by about 1,100 on his jungle counterpart. So the gold is definitely stacked up on Aatrox, and it looks like Lucian as well.
Yeah, even though Lucian and Jinx are even in score other than assists, it's just really the assist gold is what's keeping Lucian.
Oh, and Jinx did not know she was standing on a ward, thought she was going to catch the monkey in a blind run through her jungle, and ends up dead for it instead. Kayle brought very low by the culling, is forced to pop her ultimate, and here is Aatrox putting a lot of damage down onto Lucian. Tries to lifesteal his way through it, not quite able to. Bloodwell is popped on Aatrox, and Vel'Koz goes up a little bit too far, gets taken down by Kayle.
That was quite the bloody fight. Everyone is low. It's very good going in and out of the fight from blue team to not die. They could have easily lost 2 or 3 more members there if they weren't careful.
Yeah, they definitely could have. It looks like Wukong's coming around to kind of punish them for still being there, though. But it looks like Pantheon's going to go onto Morgana, not get the kill. Oh, Super Mega Death Rocket right in the back of the monkey's head. He did not see that one coming.
One thing is, Renekton's been slow shoving this top lane for quite a while, and he's actually ahead in CS from Aatrox now.
And that's because Renekton has not left that top lane. He's been down for a few key fights, but all in all, he's just been focusing on getting back in the game. And Aatrox's been constantly roaming with his team to try and make plays happen on the map, try and use that early game lead that he's got. So he hasn't really been able to respond to Renekton.
The gold is still about 1,000 difference, even though it's been a couple minutes, about 4 or 5 minutes later than I said earlier. I think that the real difference here is just that Purple team is up a tower.
We do see a hook landing onto Frankton, but nothing to be done with it. Dragon does come up. Aatrox is still in the top lane, so this is a 4v5 in advantage of Versace. Down here, once again, we are seeing absolutely amazing dragon control from this team. They do immediately take down that ward that got dropped and take the dragon for themselves. Pantheon putting a little bit of damage down over the top side. Nimbus Strike is used onto Kayle, but the Cyclone, a little bit too slow to follow it up, as I do believe Kayle slowed.
I actually think this was planned by Blue Team to kind of give up the dragon, as they know that team fight is not very good for them in a small area, especially like the river, just because of how much AoE Purple Team has, which was really well played to like know they can get an inner turret off that.
Oh, and here comes the Grand Skyfall from Pantheon. Does put a lot of damage down onto Wukong, and Renekton is going really hard on Jinx. Jinx cannot get away from Renekton. The Dominus is ticking, and he does use Call of Meek, does a lot of damage. Culling comes down across both Thresh and Pantheon. Pantheon goes down. That is a double kill for Lucian, and a kill for Wukong as well, who I thought Pantheon was actually going to be able to kill. And now Aatrox finds himself alone and on his back foot as the red buff is used for pursuit, and down he goes.
That really came down to Kaylee and Aatrox going too hard for Vel'Koz, even though it's under the tower. And tower dives at this stage of the game are really risky. And then they just got kited by Wukong, and they were just cleaned up from there.
Yeah, and that was some absolutely great mechanical gameplay by Friendless Fiend, using the decoys very effectively to change his positioning and get in where he needed to be.
I really think with the Jinx, who's pretty strong. I mean, Jinx right now has a lot of their money other than Aatrox. They really need to spend more time peeling for, especially with Kaylee, because Kaylee's ult did very little there. She didn't even block most of Vel'Koz's ult. She kind of used it afterward.
Yeah, and we were saying that Renekton was behind, but even from behind, if you don't peel for that Jinx, he's going to get in there and he's going to kill her. He did rush a very fast Sunfire, looking to mitigate a lot of the physical damage that they do have on their team. And there is a lot of physical damage to be had. Pantheon, Aatrox, and Jinx. I fully expect that we're going to see a Randuin's Omen from Wukong or Renekton, if not both.
Actually, with this Ruby Crystal pickup, I think Renekton's going to go for Spirit Visage next, which is a smart buy considering how much damage Kaylee does if left like to her devices, But after that, he's probably going to finish his Tiamat and then go into Ravenous, and then you'll probably see Rando. So it's going to be a long time in the making, I think, for this Renekton.
I would almost like to see a Randuin's earlier, because while Kayle does do a lot of magic damage, a lot of it is also attack speed oriented. So Randuin's can be a devastating tool on her as well. It looks like there's a little bit of a skirmish going on in the jungle, although Morgana does get caught out by the Aatrox, does miss the Dark Binding. She goes back to put the ward in, and now Lucian's coming in, uses Relentless Pursuit to try and get in close. Culling comes down over the top of the wall, but it's not going to be enough to pick up Aatrox. Aatrox scooting around in the bush. Looks like Wukong, the entire team closing in on Aatrox. The Dark Passage does come down. Aatrox goes back in with the Kayle ultimate on him, but it's too late, and most of the Kayle ultimate ticked down as the Dark Passage went off, and it looks like Wukong is going to pick up a triple kill here, going in really hard for Kayle, trying to make it a quadrant, not quite able to get it. Dominus ticks her down, though.
I think that came down to miscommunication. They should have either ulted Aatrox or Lantern him out, not do both, as the Kaylee ulti basically did nothing there.
It did, and Aatrox, it seemed, thought it was going to last a little bit longer than it did, and as a result, threw himself back into a hostile 1v4 environment, as his team was still just not close enough to really make anything happen out of it. You see a Grand Skyfall coming in from Pantheon to no effect. I think he was looking for the Wukong. Lucian trying to steal the blue buff, and does get found out by Thresh. Decides, maybe I need to just go ahead and leave, although his team is closing in pretty quickly.
Going back to that bot fight, which was pretty much a game changer in the gold, there's now a 7k lead on Versace. I think what Aatrox should have done is when he was caught there, is he could have easily jumped over the bottom wall there to go up. He just jump over the wall, and basically, blue team would have, or purple team would have no way to follow him without chasing forever. So then he could have just recalled and then gotten a better position instead of forcing a fight bot lane that was not going to go favorably.
Yeah, that's one of the things too. Is he saw his team coming in? He's like, okay, well, my team's coming, so I'll go ahead and give up my Bloodwell to delay them, and we can fight this. But as we've said, Versace has the far superior team fight composition right now.
Especially, you can't. So, like, Bloodwell is very important to Aatrox's kit, and you can't just like give that away for free, especially with an AOE comp against an AOE comp like this.
Zap does land onto Wukong, and he pops Cyclone in response. A little bit of a misclick. Those rockets coming down from Vel'Koz doing a good bit of damage, and being just generally disruptive with the slow.
Looks like blue team does not want to give up this dragon though. They've set themselves around the pit, and they look like they're going to take it. This dragon spawns in a few seconds here.
They may take it, but it looks like Renekton might have something to say about that as in a tower. Nope. Jinx comes in, pushes him away. And it looks like Aatrox is alone at the dragon. Does use his his Dark Flight to get himself over the wall. Might make his way out of this, but Wukong and Pantheon both find each other there in the Tribush. Pantheon brought down to pretty low health, does manage to block an auto attack, but it's not going to be enough, although the Dark Flight does come in and is now onto Wukong. A lot of damage going down. Wukong does go down. Light Form Disintegration Ray coming across from Vel'Koz, the ultimate being used by Kayle to prevent some of that damage, but the slow immediately followed by Dark Flight. The Ignite ticking Flash Call the Meek does manage to take down Aatrox as well.
As strong as Aatrox is right now, I think he's getting a little cocky of his own power. I think he thinks he's stronger than he actually is.
Well, and if he thought that before, he definitely thinks that now, as it does appear that Renekton is caught up to him. He is now only 300 gold behind, and we see leads on almost every other player. We actually see leads on every other player of Versace. The only person ahead now is Aatrox, and it's not by that much.
Versace needs to grab Dragon and get out and buy. They have a lot of... They're sitting on quite a bit of gold right now. I guess 1,000 for multiple players. They should probably get this Dragon to go back to base.
That would be a great move here. And I would say that if Nightmare knew it was happening and they thought they were strong enough, maybe go for a Baron while Versace's going B. But it doesn't look like they have enough information to make that call.
Now that just really came down to just an excellent pink ward and just really good ward coverage by purple team in general. They're denying a lot of vision. They have two pinks out near this dragon pit to just deny as much as they possibly can.
AD carries fighting over the Wraith, and Thresh decides he's going to go in, does land in the box, and Vel'Koz is brought down to almost nothing, does pop his barrier, although Wukong Cyclone is in the middle of the team. Grand Skyfall coming down into the back, and the Bloodwell is not popped yet. Morgana does manage to get off her ultimate and land the stun on both Aatrox and Pantheon. Here comes Jinx cleaning up the back line, gets the slow down onto Renekton. But Renekton is just going to walk away and swag that out.
If this was the LCS, we would have like a replay of that Thresh play. That was amazing. Just an absolute amazing play into his ultimate. And a very good hook there, too.
It was a great play, and it was a play that I didn't actually expect to be great. I really thought that that move was going to backfire entirely on Thresh. And it turns out Kayle was right there to follow up on it. Good trust in his team, knowing that they'd be there to do what they needed to do.
Just goes to show how much like zone control the box brings in small areas, because to get to the back line, purple team had to walk all the way through like basically every one of those walls of his ultimate.
And they did, and it's honestly why the Wukong Cyclone wasn't able to do anything. He wasn't able to get close to Jinx. He wasn't able to get close to Kayle, and as a result, he ended up not doing anything in that fight. We do see Versace, though, setting up near the Baron, maybe wanting to bait this Baron out Although they've got a pretty substantial lead, so they might want to force a fight somewhere else instead. Vel'Koz fires out some rockets, barely misses Thresh.
One thing to note is that purple team's bot lane is pushing, so they're pretty much happy just to sit here and just like waste blue team's time, because eventually that's going to get to the tower. It's going to be a pretty big wave because it's slow pushing.
Yeah, and that is actually going to be a massive wave, and they are going to have to send someone to deal with it. And when someone goes down there, I think that's when we'll see Versace make their move. I expect to see a Morgana flash ultimate as soon as she has it available to her. Oh, and it looks like Pantheon is going in on Morgana. Does deal quite a bit of damage. And now Morgana and Renekton caught out here by themselves, but the Lightform Disintegration Ray coming across, doing a lot of good AoE damage. Wukong pops his Cyclone, goes back through the box. Not the move we want to make. Aatrox is here, just being left alone to run rampant against whoever he wants. The Bloodwell does manage to get popped, but Renekton's going to go down as well. And this is a fight that is going massively in favor of Nightmare. And I think a large part of it is due to the fact that Morgana was caught, quite frankly, out of position.
This just shows like the strengths of each of their comps. I mean, Purple Team has so much upfront damage, but just after that, like the cleanup potential from Aatrox and Jinx is just massive. You can't escape, and you can't kill them.
And that's what you said they were going to have to do. They were going to have to find one or two people on the rotations and just pick them up really easy or really hard, and they've done that. They've played very well to that strength, and they've done a lot of good work on that.
One thing to note, I guess, is that I was kind of wrong earlier when I said I think bot lane's pushing. It actually turns out that bot lane's pushing for the blue team, which is really good for them right now, as they have to send Lucian bot. If they based earlier, because they couldn't have got that turret, they might actually have been able to do a Baron now. I think they forced trying to get an objective too much, and now they can't really get a Baron off that.
No, they absolutely can't get a Baron off of it, although it does look like Thresh is trying to clear out some wards in here. And, I think this Morgana aggros Baron onto Thresh, just says, "You kill my ward, you jerk." We'll see what I have to say about that.
This looks a lot like the ward wars from season 3.
It absolutely does, only just, you know, with new tools at their disposal. Once again, every time Thresh tries to go in to clear that ward, Morgana just keeps aggroing Baron onto him. Going, all right, you want to take that ward? That's fine. You're going to take a lot of damage from here.
Jinx is showing bot, they really need to run.
Yeah, Jinx did just show bot, and it looks like Renekton wants to make a fight out of this. Looks like Lucian wants to make a fight out of this as well, but there's actually a lot of slows and a lot of disengage power on the side of Nightmare.
Is not in the right position right now.
Yep, Thresh is in a very bad place. If he gets caught with the Dark Binding, he could be in a lot of trouble. But now the team is collapsing on them as Morgana chases in a little bit too far. It's the collapsing horseshoe issue. Morgana does get caught by the death sentence, but there's not going to be a follow-up on it. Follow-up on that would have been a little bit too dangerous. And now Renekton getting caught by the death sentence. Oh, and Thresh is actually out just a little bit too far, throwing out those death sentences. Does get blown up in an absolute hurry by Vel'Koz and Wukong. Wukong does use his Cyclone, but the slow from Kayle is just a little bit too much. Can't even close in with Aatrox, who is very or Pantheon, who is very close to. And down goes Jinx. There are two separate fights going on. The fight in the jungle does go heavily in favor of Versace. Lucian picking up a double kill there. Absolutely well played. And it looks like the fight in mid also went in favor of Versace.
This was just a misplay by blue team. They really needed to wait for the Aatrox passive. It's very important for their synergy in this game, and they kind of forced it too much, and they may just lose the game right here.
And yeah, this is a huge setback. That we are seeing them lose a tower and an inhibitor turret. Or I'm sorry, an inhibitor turret and an inhibitor.
That's another dragon for purple team, even them getting them farther ahead.
Yeah, and it looks like they are going to rotate up here to the top and put down a very large push onto the minions, or onto the tower with the help of the minions. Did have a cannon wave with them. That's. Oh, and Thresh comes out just a little bit too far, does get caught out by Vel'Koz. Minions did chase him in there, giving Vel'Koz the vision to know that he was able to kill Thresh. Life Form Disintegration Raid dealing a massive amount of damage.
You could tell by both of these teams that they're both like pretty mechanically even. I think what's winning purple team this game, they've been in a team for a lot longer. I think the communication involved in that is just pretty much.
Whoa! Wukong felt the breeze on that one. Jinx is coming in, thinks that Wukong tried to escape. Oh no, Jinx, if you had kept going, you would have had him.
I'm surprised that when they saw Wukong bot, they didn't just rush Baron. He was low. It would take him a while to get back to base. He doesn't even have home there yet. They probably could have forced something near the Baron pit.
I don't think they thought they had enough damage, or they felt that Jinx was too far already down into the bot lane. Looks like Versace is going to attempt to steal this blue and
Nice
fail,
steal.
as Thresh does pick it up.
This is really dangerous for blue team. They don't have any wards in there.
They have very minimal vision. They have small vision on the approach. Oh, and Thresh is going to get caught. Is going to get the KO ulti on him, and is able to get the box down before he gets killed. But Wukong is already through the box and able to get into the back line. Uses Cyclone to close all of the distance on his way to onto Jinx. Uses Nimbus Strike to close up the gap twice, as she doesn't almost manage to get away. Aatrox goes down as well. Dark Binding, and immediately followed up by a stun.
One thing to note about Versace is they love fighting in these tiny areas, which means they don't actually want to do the Baron. They want to force you to come to it, which is exactly what they did right there.
And they did a great, absolutely fantastic job of it. Looks like we are going to see one Nexus turret. Looks like we are going to see a KO go down, and then immediately followed by one Nexus turret, two Nexus turrets, and this may be the Nexus. Death Sentence does land, but it's not going to be followed up by anything, and that is GG in favor of Versace. Well played all around by both teams. Absolutely fantastic. A bloody fight. 53 kills. Wow.
Basically, basically comes down to like both teams have this high. They love to fight each other, and basically that's what it was a brawl the entire game. And I think just purple with better communication just kind of outplayed them.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think the higher communication level, a team that's been together longer, and you know, there was a sub. We did have Vampirage jungling for Nightmare. They did not have their full 5 roster. So, you know, things like that definitely impact the way you play. But all around, GG, well played to both teams. That's going to do it